Hey everyone, Cleo here, and it is my birthday today. It's not my birthday for me, but it's my birthday for you guys. So I am definitely pre-filming this because on my birthday I will still be on Madeira. It's my final day on Madeira. By the evening, like around 7, I'm flying back home. So I will be enjoying every last second of my trip there. So it's the 1st of July, TBR 0 should be achieved. As I'm still on holiday, I am not yet ready to start my post-0 TBR content, but for today I thought I'd just do a fun little video, and that is reacting to a list of bad bookish habits and whether you've participated in these, yes or no. Now, to begin with, I need to give credit where credit is due. So this is a template available through Twitter via the handle Literary Base. So I will have the Twitter account linked in the description down below. And so this is a template that is called Bookish Bad Habits. But in all fairness, I'm pretty sure that the intent of this is just a light fun. You know, none of these habits are bad habits per se. It definitely depends on your opinions. And as we will go through this list, I'm pretty sure that I'll probably participate in most of these. So I will probably just turn out to be a very bad reader. But so I wanted to go through this list in video format because I think that the questions are actually quite interesting. So let's get started. The first one. Being excited about a book but never reading it. I have definitely done this. You know, as I said, I've just finished Project Zero TBR, so it's definitely my intention to from now on always, you know, read the books as I'm purchasing them and so get around to them more quickly. But I'm not even ruling it out, and it's even possible that in like a year's time I will be back at square one, for example, though I'm definitely going to try and avoid that. But definitely in the past few years it has happened quite a few times, and in my whole journey towards TBR 0 I did on occasion do these sort of like bigger on-haul projects in which I went through my TBR to see, am I even still interested in these books? And quite a lot of them I have thrown away that way, you know, I've gotten rid of, I've moved to the secondhand bookstore. And so that is part of the reason why I wanted to do TBR 0, because I wanted to avoid that happening. You know, I don't want a book that I'm excited about as I'm purchasing it to stick around on my bookshelves for so long that my excitement disappears or that my reading tastes have changed. Secondly, bought new books despite a big TBR pile. This is definitely true even during TBR 0 project. So the first year of TBR 0, definitely, I was still buying quite a lot, and so I wasn't making as much progress as I wanted to make, and I basically did a massive unhaul at the end of that year so that I was better on track for TBR 0. But so yeah, definitely during TBR 0 I was doing this, and that was also the reason for TBR 0 project to begin with, is that for years I was buying tons of books while my TBR just kept on growing and growing and growing. Third one, breaking the spine of a paperback book. Absolutely, I intentionally break my paperback spines. Paperbacks, you know, not the US floppy ones of course, but the UK hard, rigid paperbacks. Yes, I absolutely break the spines of those. I don't necessarily start off breaking them, but you know, the moment in which I start to get these like hand cramps from trying to keep the book open, that's when I will intentionally break the spine. Sometimes I do it from the beginning. I start off immediately breaking the spine in like 4 different sections or something like that, but usually it's just like coming naturally that throughout the book I'm like, this is starting to hurt my hand, and then I'm just breaking the spine so that I can keep it open easily. Discover the spoiler. Well, I have the bad habit of like thinking ahead. You know, I find this also to be the case with my reading life in general. I'm like thinking about ahead of like, ooh, when I finish this book then I can read that one and blah blah blah, rather than just focusing on the book in the moment in which I'm reading it, rather than just spending my time enjoying that read or focusing on my enjoyment of that read. I'm also kind of always planning ahead and thinking about what's next, you know, the next book that's on my to-be reads. But when it comes to the reading experience itself, that also often happens that I'm kind of like checking, okay, how much longer is this chapter? Or okay, how many more chapters? Where do I want to end by the end of this day? or how much further until we get to the end of this book. And definitely my eye glazes over certain words that way, and clearly my brain actually takes in a little bit more than what I think I'm taking in, because I did on occasion spoil myself for things. The biggest spoiler that I've ever spoiled myself for was in Master of Sorrows, actually, in which I knew of a certain tragic events before it had happened because of checking ahead to see where the next section was going to end or something like that. So yeah, I try to avoid this, but I do still do this, so it's still possible that I'm going to run into spoiler that way. Dog-ear the page. Like breaking the spine, I have no problem dog-earing a page. I actually don't really have the patience for tabbing all that often. I have tabs, and I have definitely heavily tabbed certain books, but I feel like with tabbing I'm more likely to tab like way too much, whereas with dog-earing it's really something that I only do when I come across like a beautiful passage, a beautiful line, or a really interesting thematic. So I do it less, and so it has more of an impact. Plus it's very visible without you having those sticky tabs that jump out through the side. That can be a problem if you're pushing it against the back. So it's ideal. Dog-earing is ideal. Alright, next. Drop a book in a bath or a puddle. I've absolutely dropped a book in a bath. Like not all the way, but when I was reading in baths, sometimes it would happen that, I would, like my arms would fall more downwards and the bottom layer of the book would get completely soaked. I did this with a book that I was doing a thesis on, I did this with a book that I was doing a paper on, and like the book wasn't even mine, it was of the person that I was working with. So I felt really, really bad about that one. And I think I gave her a new copy, I hope so. I hope that past me gave her a new copy. But yeah, it has happened. I definitely never intend to do that. But yeah, I've gotten things wet. I think recently I had a book and a water bottle in my backpack, and the water bottle started to spill. So yeah, that book also got wet. So it unfortunately happens. Forced yourself to read or finish a book. Yeah, absolutely. Like forcing myself to read a book, yeah. For university, definitely. Have there been books that I've read that I knew that I wasn't necessarily all that interested in? Probably, and I actually have a project like that lined up. So yes, it happens. I'm going to be reading a book for a particular reason that I don't think I'm going to like. But it will be an interesting experience to read it like that, I'm sure. And finishing a book for a very long time, I really had difficulties DNFing a book, because I have a few books that I really enjoyed the ending of. And so I felt it was difficult for me to put a book down, because I was always like, what if this book turns around? What if the ending of this book absolutely makes up for the struggle I had in getting to that book? But at this point in time, I'm more inclined to DNF. I don't know whether that is because of TBR0 projects, in which I'm just like more inclined to think along the lines of, it's been on my shelves for such a long time, I never felt the need to pick it up, and now it's even turning out to be a drag. Why am I wasting my time here? And maybe it'll be more difficult again when I'm picking up these books that I've like just purchased. I've just put the money in for these books, so the investment will feel more tangential. Tangential? Is that how you pronounce that? Maybe that will change my DNF habits. Maybe my DNF powers will be gone again. But I would preferably hold on to them. I do like being able to make these decisions, being able to say, hey, I'm actually really not enjoying myself here. And the main purpose of reading is to enjoy yourself. So put it down. Judge a book by a cover. I mean, in part, we are all doing this, When we decide to pick up a book, there are multiple reasons, of course, but one of them is definitely that the cover appeals to you, Obviously, you can be swayed by a recommendation from somebody for example, or reading about this book in an article, for example. But I'm pretty sure that the visual aspect, at the very least subconsciously, does a whole lot. It definitely does a whole lot when you're going into the bookstore and you're just thinking about, I want to pick up a book. You have like a whole bookstore to choose from. The visual aspect is determining which books you're even picking up, which books you are looking into further by looking at the back cover. But yes, there are definitely books that I've felt the need to read because of the beautiful cover art that didn't necessarily always pan out the way I want them to. Keep a borrowed book. As far as I'm aware, I have never done this. I've had people keep a book that they borrowed from me, but I don't think I've kept a borrowed book ever. No, I'm pretty sure I haven't. Laying a book open upside down. I absolutely cannot with this one. I'm like traumatized by this one, okay? So, trigger warning for Harry Potter. My sister puts Harry Potter 2 Chamber of Secrets like this, open to chapter who knows what, upside down on her nightstands, and the book, and because she was constantly doing this for every single chapter where she landed, the book at some point broke in two. So basically I had the Chamber of Secrets part 1, the Chamber of Secrets part 2, and yeah, I absolutely hate this. My father does this, so this is where she gets this from, clearly. My sister has since learned better ways, but I will never do that. I do that for like 5 seconds or something when I'm looking for a bookmark, and even then I kind of feel like super anxious about it. I'm like, oh, I need to immediately find my bookmark before I destroy this book by putting it open like that. So no, absolutely not. This is the one that I'm allergic to. Lost a book. I've lost a DVD definitely, and I'm constantly losing stuff, so it would not surprise me if I've ever lost a book, but not really that I'm aware of. You know, usually my books are just like lying around in the open or in the bookcases, and the places where they lie around are just like the visible places. It's next to my sofa, next to my bed, on the table, you know, in a backpack. I'm not dropping my books in very weird places, so I will always find them back. So I'm assuming no. Lost sleep reading. Well, we're long past the days of losing sleep reading, sadly, because now, even when I want to do that, I don't remember which one it was recently, perhaps with Such a Fun Age, where I was just like so sucked in. I wanted to continue, I wanted to finish it, but I just couldn't, you know, I just felt myself falling asleep all the time. I was just like, just keep going, I want to finish, but I now am like, I won't say that I'm a grandma, you know, I'm turning 34 today, but, you know, I cannot do it anymore. I cannot stay up super late, at least not with a book. I can kind of stay up late with a movie maybe, but even then I will absolutely regret it and my eyes will absolutely be killing me at that point in time. Lost your place while reading? Yeah, that happens. I am way better about bookmarking at this point in time. So I used to have like only like super random bookmarks. So I would just put like a receipt in and all those things. But then I would often also just like put a book closed and try to remember the page where I was at, which I will admit I was pretty good at once upon a time. But now it occasionally happens. I do have like bookmarks and I keep them in the same place. They're in my bookshelf, so I always know where to find a bookmark. And like I have a few wandering around, but from time to time I will clean those up. So I always easily find access to a bookmark, but it has still happens that I found myself without a bookmark. Probably usually when I start a book on the commute and forget to put a bookmark in before I leave. And then it definitely happens that I'm like, where was I? And that I like reread maybe even 2 pages before I realize that I've already read that passage. Alright, we're halfway through this and my foot is totally falling asleep, so let's try to speed this up a little bit. So read the last chapter first? No, absolutely not. As I said, I do kind of look ahead, so I actually always start off by looking at the page count, and while doing that I sometimes accidentally read something on the last page, but I will never read the last chapter first. Read too many books at once? It has happened on occasion, you know. I used to be like 1 book at a time always, but then I started to read multiple books at the same time. Like my sweet spot at this moment is kind of like 3 books. 3 books at the same time I can do. However, if I read more, then usually it just means that 1 or 2 books are just like laying by the wayside, that I'm actually not really actively reading them. And usually that's just a sign of the fact that one of those books that I was originally reading, one of those 3, is just a book that I should be DNFing because I'm just picking up something else to read because I'm not interested enough in the other books that I'm reading. Read without knowing the blurb. I will have always known the blurb at some point, but I don't always remember the blurb at the time that I picked the book up. So there are a lot of books, especially fantasy for example, that by the time that I start reading them, I'm going in cold. I'm going in without too much knowledge about what the plot line at the very least is about. I usually know something about the atmosphere and the world and things like that. But the plot, I actually don't really mind going in without that focus. I actually sometimes think it is to the benefit of my enjoyment because, you know, otherwise at the beginning of the novel sometimes just feels like a chore. It just feels like you're catching up to that blurb that you've read and that you already have knowledge that the author is still setting up. Refusing to read a book because it's popular. Yeah, I am a very contrary person. So I often tell people that they should use like reverse psychology on me. You know, tell me to do something and I will feel more inclined not to do it. Even if I had the intention of doing that thing before the person told me to do it. If you, for example, give me a reminder. If, for example, I'm kind of procrastinating on doing something and then, you know, somebody will send me a reminder for it, I will kind of feel like I want to wait even longer just because of that reminder. So when it comes to popular books, it is a little bit difficult with my personality. So I tend to want to find the hidden gems. Want to be reading the books that not everyone else is reading, you know. I do read a ton of popular books, but when a book is like at the height of its hype and I feel like I'm late to the party, that's when things get difficult. A secondary element to that, of course, is the hype itself and the expectations that that raises. I usually want to go in with 0 expectations or, you know, as open-minded as possible. And when there is so much hype surrounding a certain release, that becomes a little bit more difficult. So we'll see how that ends up going with my shorter TBR. I will be way more able to just pick something up on the whim. And so I'm eager to see whether that just means that I'll be like jumping onto the bandwagon more often or whether it won't really have an effect. Rereading old favorites instead of new books, absolutely. I don't do it super often, but I definitely do it. While reading for TBR0 project this year, for example, I did reread 4 books as well, for example. So I definitely do reread. I have a few books that I've been saying for years that I want to reread that hopefully now that I'm at 0 TBR, I will also be prioritizing those rereads. Maybe not in 2022, but in 2023. So I have a few that I also want to reread, for example. I'm very much somebody who likes comfort. And with books, I have it way less than with TV shows, for example. But with TV shows, it's a real struggle to get me to watch something new because I will always prefer just rewatching something that I know I love than trying my hand at something new that I might lose interest in after half an episode, 1 episode, 5 episodes, 3 seasons. You know, I don't have a great track record for finishing series. So I'm very much somebody who likes the comfort of re-exploring a story I've previously loved. Skip ahead whilst reading? Nope. I read every single word. I just feel like I'll just get lost without that, you know, or like I'm being too impatient with a book and then why am I even reading it if I cannot muster the patience to read every aspect of it, then I should just be putting it down, right? Snacking while reading books, I mean, absolutely. I definitely sometimes eat dinner even while reading a book, though less frequently, you know, that's just a little bit less handy. But snacking, yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of my books will definitely have like smears in them from certain snacks, from like eating crisps while reading a book, for example. So yeah, as has been made clear, I don't really care that my book looks as if it's been read. I like the look of a read book, so if that means coffee stains here, a little stain there, I mean, I don't mind. I prefer not to stain the book, of course, but if it happens, I'm not going to lose sleep over that neither. Spent too much money on books? It has been a while, so I have definitely been quite good about book buying, so it kind of feels like a whole different life, and I'll be going back to that life to some extent. But yeah, I definitely have felt like I was spending so much of my money on books. But I mainly felt that way because then I was also not reading those books, you know, I was buying more than I was reading, so then that felt like spending too much on book. So whereas I might spend the same budget or more now, but I hope that I'll feel less as if I'm spending too much money on books because I will actually be reading those books in a timely manner, if that makes sense. Spilled liquid on a book, yeah, I mean, I already indicated that they sometimes get coffee stains, so yes, absolutely. Starting in the middle of a series, maybe unintentionally, but the moment I realize, I will then quit. But I've definitely also done it a whole lot for like companion series. For example, for like romance novels, historical romance series, they are very much companion series. And so definitely there, I don't mind, like I don't care which order the books are in. I will a lot of times only read one book in a trilogy, for example, and it's not always the first. Take a lot of books on a short trip. Yeah, I mean, go back to August 2021 when I went to Portugal and it took like 7 books maybe. Like let's be generous and say that I took 5 books with me and I read one of them. So yeah, I definitely do this. Use strange things as a bookmark. As I indicated, I used to use whatever was on hand. I don't think I had really strange things there. It was just like a receipt for this or that, a movie, cinema tickets, maybe even just like packaging for a cookie or something like that. That'll probably be like the most weird thing to use as a bookmark, but nothing really weird, you know. And then the final one, which is really calling me out, is waiting too long to review a book. Well, I might have done really well when it came to my TBR0 project and sticking to my TBR0 project, but I also am really behind on my ARC, so advanced reader copies. I have some 9, I think, that I had access to before 2022, and I have like 4 extra now, of which not all of them are overdue, but yeah, that is definitely something that needs to be tackled, preferably in big part already in 2022, but I'm gonna be realistic and say that I probably won't tackle that entire backlog in 2022, and that part of it needs to be tackled in 2023, but yeah, this ARC backlog is definitely real. I cannot deny it. I have a huge backlog when it comes to my ARCs, and you know, I had a huge backlog when it came to my ARCs already for a very long time. And you know, some of my ARC reviews definitely came in way too late, and I feel like and that is a real shame, and I feel really guilty about those, but also because it was my intention to do like a video review of every ARC copy that I'm reading, but because I'm so late with so many of these ARCs, I also feel like it's a little bit pointless to do a video review for some of them because I don't have enough dots, for example, and it's a book that in the meantime might have been published like 2 years ago for some of these. So yeah, I really want to catch up to that, and in any case, all of the books that I have that I am not too late on yet, I will definitely intend to get the review out on time, and from now on to be on time for all of my reviews again. But I would absolutely love getting on track again in totality, because you know, that backlog, I'm not proud of that at all. But so yeah, we've gone through the full list. You'll have a little bit of a better idea about my bookish bad habits. I think the ones that most people will be upset about are like the breaking of the spine and, you know, dog-earing of pages. I used to really have an issue with that, but that's really been a long time. For years now, I really haven't cared at all about that aspect to book reading and to the way in which my books look. So yeah, I would say free yourself, free your inhibitions, break that spine. It's such a releasing feeling to be able to crack it and not care. But so yeah, with that, I'm gonna end this video. Hope you guys all have a lovely day and see you guys for the next one. Bye!